What are some interesting or fun Christmas traditions you follow?
My best friend and I started a tradition of celebrating Christmas Eve together. Actual day is a little loose on interpreting based on life. We switch it up each year, but we always dress up in Christmas outfits, have dinner, some kind of activity, and a movie. At dinner, we also exchange a book we picked for the other that we wrote a personal note inside. Then afterwards, we create a magnet for each other of our favorite photo from the night. My family has a tradition of leaving riddles on cards and guessing what the gift is before opening. We go around one by one, reading our hint out loud so everyone can guess, then open it and show the room. Ends up taking like 5 hours for everyone to get through their gifts, but it's always a fun time. Wife and I order from the same Chinese restaurant every Christmas Eve. We eat from there almost exclusively on Christmas Eve. We don't do much Chinese through the year regularly. Started one Christmas Eve when we were both feeling lazy and hasn't stopped. 12 plus years now. Every year my wife and I buy an ornament for our tree that corresponds with something that happened that year. So we have a tree filled with all of these weird wacky ornaments like a tennis ball. We started playing tennis that year, Swedish Chef, Europe trip, ship Captain Nutcracker, our first cruise, amongst many others. It's such a fun tradition in December to debate what we to get and then finding something. And then reliving them all when we put them up. Every Christmas the kids in the house have wrapping paper put over the entrances to their rooms so they get to rip through it in the morning. It originally started as a way to keep a certain kid in when he kept coming out early and opening presents before everyone was awake. My husband's family did this too. Except they would wrap the doorway to the living room, and everyone would have to wake up, get dressed, and have a big sit-down breakfast before they could bust through the wrapping paper barrier and get to the presents. I cannot imagine how you could get 4 kids to be that patient, but somehow his mother managed it. 28 years ago I was one of the first 100 customers at an H-E-B grand opening. For that honor I got 2 cans of this. That Christmas we had a fun dollar store white elephant exchange with the family Christmas Eve. I wrapped a can of the potted meat as my contribution. My mom got it and got a real kick out of it. She immediately re-gifted it to me the next day. Well, next year I wrapped it and gave it to my sister. The year after that she wrapped it and gave it to my dad. For the last 28 years this has been the most coveted gift of Christmas. I gave it to my son last year and he happily wrapped it for his cousin this Christmas. One year my great aunt got her older sister, my grandmother, a bottle of Elizabeth Taylor perfume. The perfume happened to come with a watch, a shiny gold pleather affair with fake, white diamonds, around the face. It was hideous, but my aunt wrapped up the watch too and hammed it up like it was a big deal. My grandma laughed and wore it all day, showing it off like, look at my gold watch. The next year, my grandma wrapped the watch and gave it to her sister. Laughter, surprise, etc. The watch was gifted back and forth each year with great joy. A few years ago my grandma died in June. Later that year, when I was opening my Christmas present from my younger sister, I completely unsuspectingly unwrapped the gold watch. I sobbed and laughed, of course, and we have been trading it at Christmas ever since. Every year for the last 8 years my sister and I gift each other a weird thing that makes the other one laugh. It started with when our house almost got repossessed just before Christmas and everything was so terrible that we just wanted to make each other laugh. Highlights include 12 packs of frozen potato smiley faces to resolve a long-forgotten childhood argument, 3 chocolate tubes filled with tinny rubber ducks instead of chocolate, a lucky dip which involved hiding small gifts in socks, and this year a bag of potatoes with Nicolas Cage's face blue tacked on every individual potato. My brother and I stay at my mother's house on Christmas Eve with our families every year. We still sit at the top of the stairs on Christmas morning until my mother tells us we can come down to the living room to see what Santa left us. We're both in our 30s and our wives and kids now sit on the stairs as well. It's getting pretty crowded, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Oh my God, you share the tradition my mom instilled with my brother and I, both in our 30s as well. I cannot wait to pass it on to my kids, and he does it with his daughter. We'd wake mom and dad up real early, then they'd go downstairs, turn the tree on, make coffee, start a fire, take forever, all while my brother and I would be trembling with excitement. Finally, my mom would turn on the train around the base of the tree, and the Santa would say ho ho ho, and that was our cue to sprint down the stairs and behold the beauty of everything and start opening up. Every year my family buys each other member a gag, joke, small gift, then writes a poem about it, for the recipient to read on Christmas Eve. It's probably the highlight of the entire season for me, as it's always filled with laughter at how terrible we all are at poetry. No matter how old we all get, this is a really fun way to bring everyone back to that root joy of spending time together. This year it will be virtual, but still fun. My parents were broke when I was a kid, but you'd never know it from Christmas. They always went all out, put money on credit cards, etc. One Christmas we were particularly broke, but Dad went out and spent probably most of his paycheck on last-minute gifts. When we got home, my mom had been with us all day, and since there was no money, she hadn't gone food shopping. All we had were some cheap hot dogs and canned beans. My parents put the beans in a pot over the fire, grabbed the hot dog cooker from when we went camping, and threw the dogs on over the fire too. My sister and I loved it so much, we did it again the following Christmas. Eventually we weren't quite so poor. The $2 ANP hot dogs became Nathan's, then Sabret's, then Butcher Bratwursts. The beans went to B&M, then eventually fancy gourmet shit. But my sister and I are now adults with our own families, and even on years where we're not together, our entire family has hot dogs and beans on Christmas Eve. Edit. Thanks for all the kind comments everyone, and thanks for my first Reddit silver too. Since my family won't be spending the holidays together, this really brightened my day. Merry Christmas. Edit 2. Wow, my first gold. Thanks again everyone. Glad you all enjoyed hearing about our holiday tradition. Merry Christmas. Edit 3. A platinum. Thank you so much. I truly can't believe it. Merry Christmas. I love when traditions born out of poverty are held onto and evolve. For my family it is chocolate oranges. My grandparents grew up during the Depression and an orange would be all that they would get in their stocking. Then in the 60s they held onto the idea of that by making sure that my mother and her siblings had orange gummies in their stockings. Then when my mother had my siblings and she updated it to chocolate oranges. I'm not a really big fan of sweets and chocolate doesn't really like my digestive system since about my mid-20s, but I am so looking forward to getting that chocolate orange on Friday because it just takes me back to being a little kid. My uncle always hosts Christmas at his house since family comes from all over and he has beds for everyone to stay over. On his property is about an 150-foot diameter pond. Every Christmas morning we wake up and build a giant bonfire to get ready for the impending shock we will feel later on around noon. We also try to get a decent drunk blanket going for those that are of our family's required drinking age, just in case. Come noon on Christmas Day, we do the Polar Plunge to rid ourselves of last year's crap and look forward to next year. We huddle around this bonfire while my grandpa passes around shots to help warm up because that pond is fucking freezing. Edit. Told my uncle about how a lot of you seem interested in this and he said if you guys, don't have plans next year or are alone feel free to come. He only asks to bring a tent, sleeping bag and a treat for their German shepherds. A buffet for 10. For 2 so my wife and I spend the days leading up to Christmas Eve going around and buying a selection of the poshest party food from the likes of M&S, Booths, Waitrose. On Christmas Eve we will bathe the kids 10 and 5, play board games with them, watch movies etc. It's bed for 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. for them both. The oven then goes on. 30 to 40 minutes later we have enough food to feed at least 10, but it's just for the 2 of us and we always do pretty well and are stuffed by 11:30 p.m. A few glasses of wine or G&Ts keep the merriment going. We arrange the gifts at around 1 a.m. and it's off to bed. Excited ourselves, we usually end up discussing what food was our favorite and my wife makes a note to buy again the following year. Apart from seeing the kids' faces on Xmas morning, this is by far my favorite part of Xmas. I hope everyone has a good one this year and is able to fill their bellies and enjoy the company of those you love. We have quite a few. We open Christmas season by putting up the tree the day after Thanksgiving and watching Polar Express. We've done this for so long that my 20 and 17 years olds have no memory of not doing it, and my 13-year-old has never had a Christmas where we didn't do this. My youngest and I make a list of holiday movies, and keep track of all the ones we watch. We shoot for one movie a day starting December 1st up until Christmas, with some movies earmarked for specific days. We also watch as many holiday-themed episodes of our favorite TV shows as we can. The weekend before Christmas is when we make hot cocoa, pile into the car, put on Christmas music, and drive around to look at light displays. December 23rd is Cookie Day. I get up early, and spend the day baking. I always make way too much. The kids help when they get up. I watch A White Christmas in the morning, and we watch Christmas with the Cranks in the afternoon. This also happens to be the anniversary of my mom-in-law passing. We always buy a Christmas bouquet of flowers and tell stories about her. The kids were young when she died, so they have a foggy memory. They like to hear about her. She was an amazing grandma. Christmas Eve is when we hand out new pajamas and watch Home Alone. Home Alone is our favorite Christmas movie, so we cap off the season with it. Christmas Day is usually when I do this incredible barbecue brisket. This year we did that early in the month, and are having a simple meat and cheese spread for Christmas Day. That way I can spend less time in the kitchen and more time playing board games and video games. For the past decade, Santa has made it a habit of bringing us all Steam gift cards and a huge stack of board games. Pajamas all day, good food, board games. It's perfect. Each year for Christmas, instead of writing our real names on the presents, my parents would take a random theme and assign my siblings and I a name based on said theme. For example, this year's theme is liquor and the names are Scotch, whiskey, and gin, and we have to guess who is what name. Whoever guesses correctly gets a little homemade Christmas-themed trophy, called the Christmas Smartass Award, that they can keep until next Christmas. A tradition we had when I was a child, and one I'll be continuing with my children when I have them, is the Christmas Eve box. For Christmas Eve, we were given one gift early, and it was a box with Christmas pajamas, a mug, hot chocolate mix, popcorn, and a Christmas movie. We would get to open it around lunchtime, and we'd spend the rest of the evening in our new jammies having cocoa and movies together. Edited to say, please don't steal Christian's pajamas, he needs those. Oh my gosh, I love this. When we were younger, my parents had a tradition with us. We would always go out into the front yard with my dad to find the perfect pine cone. Maybe a week or two before Christmas, we planted the pine cone in a pot and watered it. Then overnight, it would become this magnificent, huge, to my young eyes, and fully decorated Christmas tree. It only worked in December and we were always told it was the Christmas magic. Then my sister and I figured it out when we found pine needles in my parents' car. I was sent out to find pine needles in the back park a day or two before Christmas. They were allegedly for reindeer snacks, and they had to fill this big wicker basket that was normally full of magazines. Turned out, years later, that it was to get me out of the house while my mom transferred wrapped presents from the neighbor's garage into our house, as I always tried to find and open any gifts that I snooped on before Christmas Day. On Christmas Eve we're each given a present early. It's always pajamas, and once everyone has opened their present the pajama races begin. Everyone runs to their respective rooms and puts on their pajamas, then races back to the tree. There is no prize for the winner except bragging rights. Then there is a final present that has been wrapped multiple times with a ton of tape. We all stand around the kitchen table and attempt to unwrap it one at a time. Except you have to put on mittens and a Santa hat before attempting to unwrap it. The person to your left is rolling dice, and if they get doubles then you stop trying to unwrap it and pass the mittens and hat to them so they can try. This game becomes very loud and fast, so you need to keep on your toes. It keeps going around in a circle until someone is successful. The gift is always a board, card, dice game, and we play the game until it's time to go to bed. My siblings and I are all grown now, but we'll probably continue to play this with our parents until we have spouses to bring home, then make them play as well. My dad's mom used to read Santa Mouse to me and my cousins. It was a book about Santa's helper who was a mouse. So for my whole life we have left out milk and cookies for Santa, and cheese and crackers for Santa Mouse. In return, Santa Mouse would put gift cards or cash into the tree itself. So after opening presents you hunt in the tree for Santa Mouse's gifts. Definitely a tradition I will carry on to my kids down the road. Every year everyone in my immediate family buys each other a Christmas tree ornamented. Now our tree is covered with good memories that actually have meaning. Aw, that's adorable. My tree currently only has a few special ornaments like that, but I'm looking forward to going through my mom's Christmas things next time I visit. I live out of state and get all my childhood ones. Growing up, my mom always got my brother and I a new ornament and she'd write the year on it. Most would be things we were into that year, like the year my brother got a Spider-Man because he was Spider-Man that Halloween, or the year I got a cute little sock because that was the year I was obsessed with weird socks and mismatching them. I remember one year she got me one that had a little poem about daughters and my brother a similar one but for sons. The following year my brother and I found one that was exactly like ours but for mothers, so we bought it for her, which was extra special because she left her husband that year, so it was the first year that it was just us three. We had an old friend who was perfect for playing the Santa. The kids and I loved his antics and dance. He unfortunately passed away a year ago after being in a terrible accident. We give him a tribute by talking to his parents on Christmas, us friends drinking together and dancing for his favorite songs with his signature steps. Although we can't meet up this year, we've set up a Zoom call and ordered Christmas caps and fake beards online. We're pretty sure that idiot is still rocking the costume somewhere far away from us. We miss him every Christmas. Scandinavian Xmas. 3 hours dinner on the 24th until the oldest male of the house hears Tomten and we're ushered into a room. We hear oldest male offer beer, milk or cookies to Tomten, who snuck through the keyhole by the way. Few minutes later, we exit room. Tomten's load of presents are at the tree and we play a 70 years Swedish folk song while, hands on the hips of the person in front of you, dancing a snake through the house, out the front door around the street with all pets yapping at your feet. You're plastered as you started dinner with triple-sized shot glass of unflavored schnapps before the wine. We then sit in a circle and watch each person open a present handed to them by someone else, one at a time, passing said present around to, inspect and or smell it, if a scented product like cologne, etc. It's never ended before 2 a.m. The 25th is just a normal hangover day with a nice sit-down lunch. Plot twist. We're in Australia so it's 40°C lol. In the south of France where my dad and his family grew up, there's this tradition of the 12 desserts of Christmas. We used to do it when my grandma was alive because she loved this tradition and we're trying to keep it alive. You just have to bake, cook or prepare 12 different desserts, ranging from almond paste stuffed dates to piles of cookies, and eat them at Christmas Eve, but it usually lasts way longer than that. Traditions have come and gone in my family over the years thanks to the deaths of various family members, but the one that has remained for almost 100 years is that everyone in the family, whether they're born into it or marry into it, gets a hand-knitted stocking for their first Christmas with the family. This will be the first year that I don't have mine. I left it at my dad's house last year, thinking I would be celebrating with him again this year, and it's been super weird. My husband had a very tough upbringing, so we are trying to instill in our daughter how blessed she is to have the opportunities and experiences she does. Each year, we have to do a Christmas clean, or a birthday clean. Each of us need to go through our things and donate the things we no longer need to someone else. The rules are if you would be sad to receive that, you aren't allowed to gift it. Only because I don't want her thinking she can pass on her broken toys to someone else to get new toys. This year my daughter, who is 5.5, was able to complete her task alone. She went through her things and donated 8 brand new toys that would be of interest to her, still in the packaging, to a foster organization. She passed on 4 princess dresses that no longer fit her. I told her how proud I was of her for being so kind, and she said that she knows she's lucky and she knows that her cousins aren't so lucky, so maybe some of the things she's gifted to other children can make it back to her cousins this year. Bonus is, my house doesn't fill up with things not being used. Thank you for the awards and such lovely comments. I'm sure many families out there have a similar tradition to share too. The Family Guber Award. Throughout the year, the previous winner tracks all the goofy mistakes family members make, i.e. locking yourself out of the house in your underwear when the trash collector is around the corner. Then at the big Christmas gathering, we all sit down and the previous year's winner presents all the family, Guber nominees, leading up to the winner, the most laughable of them all, who gets awarded a decorated 3-feet-tall trophy. My family is a bunch of cowboys. Literally. I have grown up riding horses. My dad is the oldest of 4 boys and their dad was a champion team roper, actual cowboy from West TX. Anyway, there are a lot of cowboy, horse items laying around. Pre-COVID, for my entire life, we've gathered on Christmas Day to eat and open presents. Before we transitioned to Dirty Santa, everybody would have to get everyone something and it was a nightmare. One year, my uncle Cody decided he didn't want to buy everyone presents, so when it was his turn, he sat a cowboy hat upside down on my grandmother's rug in the living room. Then instructed us that we were now in teams: the brothers, the wives, and the grandkids. My grandmother got to play on each team. Each person stood at the other end of the rug and tried to toss a balled-up pair of tube socks into the hat. You get 3 chances. It gets tricky because the socks can bounce out of the hat easily. I was champion the first year, only to get beat by my grandmother the next year. The prize is $1 for how old he is that year. I think we're at $58 now. This started when I was in middle school and I'm 29 now. It's the Cody sock game. With a bunch of cowboys and football coaches in the room, it gets competitive, but it's a lot of fun. My dad likes to get stuck into the red wine on Xmas Day. A couple of years ago we were in the kitchen and he was pretty well inebriated and spots a fly and says, "Oh great, there's the lucky Christmas fly." We were all like, "What the hell are you taking about?" And he continues to try and convince us drunkenly this is a legit tradition, that if you spot a fly on Xmas Day it's good luck. We had a great laugh about it, but the irony now is that it has actually become a tradition in our house. If a fly is spotted in the house on December 25th, our luck is in. We do this thing called El Recalentado, which means the reheating in Spanish. Basically, in the morning after Christmas Eve, which is when we celebrate, all our family, even the ones who didn't celebrate together, go to our aunt's house with a dish from the day before and we all just reheat the food from the parties and just eat and hang out. It's kinda a little get together in the morning after the party. Surprise presents drinking auction. I was introduced to this tradition by a coworker who organized it for our office party. Apparently it was a thing at their house. Basically, there's a bunch of wrapped gifts, with different sizes and values, and a big jug of moderately strong drink, could be half mixer half liquor of something you like. Each gift gets put up for auction, but you bid shots of drink. Whoever will drink more shots in exchange for the gift gets to keep it, drinks his bid, and then finds out what's inside the wrapping paper. We ended up coupling up so we could bid more shots and we all ended up pretty wasted. Good times. I told this story before. When my oldest was born, his uncle gave him a teddy bear which became his favorite toy. His uncle died just before his first birthday. The bear goes everywhere and gets pretty ragged after a while. We did a lot of searching and found the bear, bought several, and every year Teddy waits in the Christmas tree to be picked up by the elves, where he goes to the North Pole and gets pampered. He comes back looking brand new and Santa leaves him for our son. We've marked every bear with the year it's from and I'll be sad when he outgrows this tradition, but for now, it's my favorite. My mom's father was Swedish and he married a California girl in the 50s, Morfar and Mormor, respectively. It was important to my Mormor that she help her children preserve their Swedish heritage during the Christmas season, but she didn't know a lick of Swedish, God bless her. My Morfar used to get the family to join hands and go skipping and dancing throughout the house singing a Swedish Yuletide song. He passed away in 1992, just as my cousins and I were all born toddlers. My Mormor continued the tradition, but she never learned the song, and neither did Mom or her siblings. So that's how we got the tradition of skipping and dancing through the house chanting, Yuliolioli N. over and over. Also we fill our homes with trolls, tomten for Christmas. We call it the tossing of the cookies. Every year, my mom bakes delicious sugar cookies. It is a slightly laborious, but pretty standard recipe. Make the dough, chill it, roll it, cut out fun festive shapes, and bake. A bit of a time-consuming process, but worth it for those tasty Christmas treats. Our oven timer broke years ago, and despite how easy it would be to use the timer on a phone or in a browser, my mom always thinks to herself, "It's just 12 minutes, I'll remember," and proceeds to immediately forget what she was doing. She is only reminded of the cookies by the suspicious smell of smoke filling the entire house, at which point she will run into the kitchen in a panic and get the sad charcoal bricks out of the oven. She will run the whole sheet to the back door and toss all of the smoking cookies into the backyard in an epic race to beat the smoke detector. The first batch of burned cookies is always thrown in panic, but subsequent batches are thrown with increasing frustration. By the fourth ruined batch, the entire baking sheet is overturned and left in the snow directly outside the patio door. Eventually she makes a successful batch, but every year our backyard gets decorated by ugly burned sugar cookies that even the squirrels and raccoons won't touch.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like the video. And if you are new, subscribe and click on the bell icon.